This week on the show, JJ gives me a clip for the flattest introduction of the show ever, so we have to sort of look into that. Then we obviously go to Murray Bridge, Caulfield, 3 Group 1s. We really go into those Group 1s in depth in talking the Guineas, the Might and Power, and the Toorak Handicap. Toorak Handicap's interesting as well because that is our pin the tail horse. It is another Will. JJ got one back with Via Sistina, so it's now 7-5 my way. But another Will's an interesting horse because it is race 10, and we've talked about some really interesting factors that might impact the price of another Will. Let's get into the Jules and JJ show. I don't care, that's bad, but I'm going with it. Hello and welcome to the Jules and JJ show. My name's Julian Valence, joined remotely in the Adelaide Hills. James Jordan, JJ. How are we, mate? How's the week been?
It's been good. Very lo-fi intro there from you. It's normally a hello. We got a very much a hello. It's like I'm at a funeral. I don't really want to say what I have to say. We'll roll with it for now. But next week, just put a bit more life into the opener if you can.
It was very low energy, wasn't it? Wasn't that big energy that I usually have. All right, very good. I'll take that on board, take it on notice. Let's get into the track intel, punters. Righto, JJ, as always, you kick us off for the SA. We're not at Morphettville, we're not at Morphettville Park, so we have to be on a Saturday. We have to be somewhere else that's, I think, as good a track as there is in South Australia. It's Murray Bridge. What's the setup?
Yeah, Murray Bridge, it is a drying track, and we have got some warm weather around and not much rain or not any rain forecast. So we'll go with a good 4. The rail is in true. We'll go with a good 4 now. Wouldn't surprise me on the day if we get an upgrade to a good 3, though. It depends how much water they put on the track on the Friday, but I'm expecting it to be on the firmer side of a good 4. The wind is a real big factor there at Murray Bridge. When it's in the easterly direction and only 10 kilometres, I would say forget about it. It just won't hold up any of the horses, trying to lead into the home turn from the chute. So the easterlies are non-event. The intel, when the rail's in the true, I won't say every time, but more often than not, the inside lane or 2 is not the best ground. So the drying track will probably help that out, but I would say, if anything, I'd lean just slightly away from the inside gates, particularly in the chute.
All right, very good. That's the intel for Murray Bridge. In Victoria, we go to Caulfield. It's Caulfield Guineas Day. We've got the 3 Group 1s there. True position the entire circuit, probably similar to what JJ mentioned. We're on a good 4. We possibly could get the upgrade throughout the day. They're going to have to water this track heavily, I think, probably Thursday night, Friday. They're going to see a fair bit of irrigation on this track because it was predicted rainfall. That's now not going to eventuate. So let's just hope they don't put too much on. And to be honest, I'd love to start on close to a good 3, and we're going to get some fast run races and fast horses winning. Wind important here, possibly, if we can get up to the high end of what is possibly predicted. 15 to 25 kilometres southerly. So what is that? It's actually a tailwind in the chute. So what does that mean for our intel in terms of our chute races, which are over 1,000 to 1,200 metres? Look, it sets up even, but when this wind gets right into play with the southerly and it ends up at 25 kilometres, I know what I want to be with. I want to be with leaders. I want to be with horses on speed, especially around the chute. In terms of the back markers, it's a real low percentage play around the chute with this setup on Saturday. The circle, forward of midfield, is a big plus. And again, leaders, bonus. You want to be with those. So look, depending on how much irrigation goes onto this track here, punters, if there's not that much and it dries right out and we're good 3, good 4, and we've got a southerly up to 25 kilometres, on speed in particular leading is going to be a major advantage, chute and circle. So take that on board with your selections because I think it's going to be really important for Caulfield on Saturday. Right, JJ, we're going to have a look at Fox factors this week. And this week we're going to delve into quaddies. And you're probably similar to me in terms of I don't really play quaddies at all until we get to a point in the year where there's big turnover. And when there's big turnover and there's big pools big money in the pools, that's when I want to play in this space with quaddies. I think the other factor you've got to put into a couple of the points that we're going to mention here is it's sort of risk versus reward. You've got to sometimes take on a favourite especially we'll see on Saturday at Caulfield, there's sort of two really shorties in the quaddie legs with Mr. Brightside and Broadsiding. So look, you need to possibly have a risk there and say, hey, maybe one of these is going to get beat and maybe take it out of the quaddie completely if you're going to do quaddies. Because otherwise, it's not really going to be much bang for your buck. I think the other factor here is when you're doing quaddies, you obviously got to do these for the 4 races prior to even you seeing the first of the legs of the quaddies. You got to put some real... Oh, I nearly died then. I think I've eaten a fly or something, but I'm not really sure what's happened there. But I didn't eat a fly because I'm inside. It's just bizarre behaviour. But I think you've got to play heaps into your maps and the bias. So if you think the track's going to play a certain way and it's going to be on speed, even if a horse is at 50 to 1 or 60 to 1, if it's in that sweet spot that you think it's going to be, you've got to put it in. Conversely to that, if there's a horse that's at the pointy end of the market and you think the track's going to play different, but it might just get over the top of them, but you don't think it's going to play like that, you just leave it out. It's going to take up 2% too much of your percentage and take away too much money in your pocket. So do that. Also, I think another factor, JJ, is when you're doing your quaddie, there's always, it's race 7 or race 6 for the day. Key factor here is there'll be some market support early on certain horses in the race, and you might not have them in your quaddie. You got to add them in. If it's like $21 into $12, you can see that there's some smart money, some professional money on it. You just got to add it in because it really will help your quaddie. But anything else you can add there from how you look at quaddies, because I think it's a product that I won't play into a lot, but this time of the year, especially in Melbourne, I'm happy to have a big lash at it.
Yeah, I'm not a big quaddie player because it's impossible for me to work out what the dividend's going to be. So I don't play them all that often, but I'll give you 2 tips. Every now and then I will. The 2 tips I would say is never ever put your quaddie on before 5 or 10 minutes before the first leg. If you wake up in the morning and think, yeah, I'll put my quaddie on, that's your routine. I know you got other things on. If you can wait until after, if it's races 6, 7, 8, 9, if you can wait after race 5, factor in the way the track's playing, the market movers as you suggested. So that is a much better way of doing it than before race 1. And you go, gee, we got 20 mils of rain. It's now a heavy 10. Well, too bad for you. You put your quaddie on at 8.10. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is don't fall into the trap where you see $1.50 missed a broadsiding and think, oh, what I'll do is I'll just stand it out and then I'll go wide in the other legs. It's like, yeah, who else would have thought of that? Everyone is the answer. So I would be more likely to not to have a quaddie that day and have a quaddie on a day where you think this thing's $1.80. I think it's a massive risk. Have it then and leave it out. That would be my 2 suggestions. That one.
It's the risk-reward sort of factor, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't fall into the trap of I can go one out, and then wide. So will everyone. And the other thing is don't put it on too early. That's the 2 pieces of advice. Take them as you will.
Yeah, I think they're really good. And I really love that one where, because it's no doubt ingrained into us that especially punters go, first thing in the morning, I'll put the quaddie on and then I'll work out what the rest of the day is. And you're right. You need to get you get as much information as you can. You're getting the first 5 or 6 races handed to you on a platter, which can allow you to have more information at your disposal. I think that's a really good one for the punters out there to understand. So that's the Fox factors for quaddies, and we want to be playing this time of the year. All right, Caulfield Guineas Day, JJ here. Big Group 1 set, so we've got 3 Group 1s to get through. Let's start with the 3-year-old classic over 1,600 metres. Now, we have got the short price favourite, Broadsiding, $1.55. Second up here, obviously, he wins a Golden Rose, was $3.40 into $2.15. So the market is just suggesting this horse is the best 3-year-old from 1,400 metres plus by far compared to its counterparts. I'll just set up the map and how I think it'll play out, and then you can add in some other bits and pieces that you want of how you actually slice up this race. But it's an interesting one because I think Gay's horses will no doubt go to the front. So you've got Wanneroo who's drawn 3 with Jai McNeil. I think it'll try and hold its spot. The key other horse there with Gay is Blake Shins on Mayfair, which is drawn 11. It led the Golden Rose, or was on speed in the Golden Rose. I think it has to roll forward. That's just its MO, I would have thought. So I think it comes and sits outside. Then there's a couple of horses that have drawn around Broadsiding that I think are important for James McDonald to try and either follow or dictate to where he actually ends up in position in run. Because I don't think Caulfield itself is going to get Broadsiding beat. I think the map is what can get Broadsiding beat on Saturday. And the key factor being there is horses like Rue de Royale, who's drawn gate 6, which is inside Broadsiding. Maybe do they roll forward? Johnny Allen's usually a bit of a neutral rider, negative rider. So does he go back? And the other one is Evaporate, who's drawn 8, so 1 inside broadsiding. What do they do? Does that camp want to roll the dice and try and sit and get a 2-length or 3-length advantage on broadsiding? If they decide they don't want to, then I think James McDonald's probably going to have to time the backside of Evaporate, and all of a sudden he's last. And then if the track plays the way I think it's going to play, in terms of you need to be on speed, especially around the circle, it's going to be really interesting to see how it sets up for broadsiding. So I don't think it's cut and dried for James McDonald and broadsiding. Yes, he's very short in the market, but there's going to be some interesting tactics that I think are going to dictate where broadsiding ends up in the run. What do you got for me?
I think he'll settle back. And I think, as you said, if the track is playing on speed, it's not going to be easy for him. And if they think, we'll be a bit more positive, it's like, well, you're going to be 3 wide, potentially no cover. So it is interesting. I've got him marked longer than the market, so I can't back him. I haven't had a bet in the race. If I'm trying to give you a couple that I don't mind at odds, because anything outside of broadsiding is odds, I thought Feroce and Private Life were 2 that could run improved races. Feroce's, forget its first up run, I thought it was solid second up. It'll be in the right spot. If there is a bit of pressure, it'll lob right in behind them, and I think it's a horse that can absorb that pressure. The other one was Private Life. Peak last start, it was a little bit green. You look at it and think maybe it didn't run the trip, but its dam ran 3rd in the Sydney Cup. So it's bred to get a bit of ground, this thing. I think it can improve. So Feroce and Private Life are the 2, I think. If you are playing multiples around broadsiding, I think there are a couple that I'd throw in. But look, he's clearly the horse to beat. At $1.60, would I back him? I wouldn't.
Yep. I've marked him $1.65 actually for the punters out there broadsiding. So look, again, with JJ, $1.55, $1.60, I don't think I'm going to be launching into broadside at the current price. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens tactically. But the other 2 that I would probably add into the mix if you're playing exotics is I think the 2 Gay Waterhouses horses are going to be on speed. I think that's how it's going to play on Saturday. I think Wanarua is a horse that was off 21 days in the Guineas Prelude. Most of those other horses were off 2 weeks. So I thought maybe it was slightly underdone. It led, wasn't in the right part of the track, I thought, and I thought it stuck on really well. I think it'll get a cute ride on Saturday. And the other one was Mayfair, which comes out of the Golden Rose as well. And I thought it was pretty good. It just sort of got held up a little bit, had to change course. And there wasn't much difference in broadsiding and Mayfair really on the line. It's more about what the market sort of did with broadsiding and where you think it's probably going to progress. So I thought those were the 2 horses that you could play from exotic point of view because I know where they're going to be in running. Let's get to the Might and Power Stakes. Again, we've got a short price favourite here, JJ, much smaller field. Mr. Brightside is that short price favourite, $1.60 at the moment with PointsBet. From a map perspective, I thought Deny Knowledge would roll forward. Even Jenny Lala would probably then go sit outside it, and then you could probably have Mr. Brightside, who's drawn 1, probably gets leaders back, and then at some stage I think Craig Williams will want to try and get off that position and end up in the 3 wide running line because I just don't think he'll want to be held up behind them. So it's going to be interesting to see where he actually lobs from that position of gate 1, but small field. In Tissue's the other interesting horse on the quick 7-day backup coming out of the Turnbull Stakes, which we spoke about on Pandora's Fox, which is going to be the race to follow, I think, through the carnival. It's just rated so well. What do you think about this race? Is tactically it slightly a concern for Mr. Brightside, or you think there's no issues at all for him?
I think he'll be positive. I think he'll ride it like a moral, which is keep it out of trouble at all costs. If he wouldn't risk something coming around him, if he gets off the fence, he won't risk something coming around in the 3 wide line. He'll want to be the aggressor. It comes down to whether Mr. Brightside wins. That's the interest in the race for me. I've got a market very similar. I've got Mr. Brightside $1.75. Looking at it, Tissue $6. I've got Deny Knowledge 11. So there's not a bet in it for me, but it'll be interesting. Some of these races, and they're not a bad thing. We talk about wagering and wagering and wagering. A race like this, you might not get the wagering that some of the others would get, but it's a bloody interesting race and it will get eyeballs to the sport. So I'm going to be looking forward to seeing it, but it's not a big betting race for me.
Yeah, I think no doubt from an eyeball point of view, this race interests me a lot from a tactical point of view because he's drawn 1. Now, if he drew 5, I would say, well, there's probably no issue here because he's going to be able to get clear air. Now, if he doesn't decide to lead on this horse, which I don't think he will, because Deny Knowledge, I think, and Jenny Lala will come across, he may just get into a really awkward spot, especially if they don't go too fast and they become 3 lengths between top to tail. There's not going to be much room for him, and we know that they can't jump over the top of him. So I think that's the bit that really interests me. I reckon from the 800 to maybe the 500, I think it's going to be the most interesting part of this race. So watch out for that, punters, with the Might and Power Stakes. But as we said, Short price favourite there is Mr. Brightside. Third of the Group 1s is the Toorak Handicap. They put that as race 10 at Caulfield on Saturday, JJ. Again, not a big Toorak field. Usually I think when we would mention the Toorak, you go, oh, it's going to be 16 or 18 plus 4 emergencies. That hasn't eventuated. We've got the scratching of Pericles as well, who goes up to the Hill Stakes on Saturday. Again, we've got a short price favourite. Not that short priced. I mean, it's sort of sitting around 265, 275, I think, for Another Will. Again, drawn gate 1, third up here. Interesting again tactically, because I think now this horse third up, and we've seen him first up when he drew wide, they went back, took the medicine, and he came over the top of them. Then second up, sort of didn't have much luck in behind them, but still had the ability to win. Go back last prep, and he was leading this horse. And I think now third up, end of the day, if I think, as we've talked about a lot, if this track is playing the way it's playing, I wouldn't be surprised to see Michael D lead on this horse and say, hey, this is now my grand final. Don't worry about the Cox Plate. I'm here to win third up and take it out of there. Take it out of the hands of horses like Antino, Craig, who's going to be a long way back. So interesting for me, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them aggressive on the favourite.
And if they, I guess the other thing to factor in, I mean, if there was, let's say Antino was a natural leader, which I'm not saying it is, but if it was, and you think, well, it's going to cross, I'm happy to box seat, that's okay. They might look at this and go, well, what's going to cross me? Wishful Lass, probably the likely horse, and then Desert Lightning, maybe, if it crosses Wishful Lass as well. That might be the thing that decides for them whether how aggressive they are early. Maybe they'll just be happy to take the medicine. We know it took a neat run. Well, it was a good run until it wasn't last start on the inside of them. So it's happy to take runs, the horse. Look, this is the most interesting of the 3 Group 1s because it's the deepest race. It's more open. But look, I think gate 1 is an advantage for that horse, particularly if you're correct with the way the track's going to play. They've got options. We saw it with broadsiding in the Golden Rose. You can, if they're going quick, you can just take another pair back. If they're going slow, you can hold your spot. So it gives them the advantage. And look, he'll be very hard to beat, no doubt. Outside of him, I thought it was an open race. A couple of these back markers will be hugely impacted by the way the track's playing. Horses like Craig and Orchestral, they're probably settling last and second last. So the market and their chances certainly at the hands of the way the track's playing.
I think there's another thing we need to mention here too about the Toorak Handicap and the price of Another Will, and maybe we'll talk about it actually a little bit more in Pin the Tail. So we'll keep our powder dry on talking about Another Will because I think this is going to be really interesting, not so much from what the market does from horse performance about Another Will. There's going to be other factors that dictate the price of Another Will on Saturday. Anyway, that was the Group 1 set. Righto, JJ, the SA set, it's time. Ran the numbers for you last week, so plus 41% return on interest or profit on turnover, whichever way you want to cut it, since we started this show with PointsBet. That's just outrageous. You're not going to see that anywhere else on the planet. Those kinds of numbers over a long period of time. Can we keep it rolling for the punters? I see you've got 2 and a bit of value, my friend.
The answer is no, we can't keep it rolling, unfortunately. If you're a superstar and you're selective, you might be able to win at 25%, something like that. You cannot win at 40%. So we've had a good run, but hopefully it can continue. Hopefully if it stays at 40% from here on, then we'll all be happy. But I would say it's going to come down a bit. Anyway, hopefully not on Saturday. We can push that.
Anyway, on that note.
Yeah. Anyway, here's 2 that can't win. No, I think I found I quite like this first one. It's race number 3. It's a horse called Dolcemente. It's a Seamus Award 4-year-old. I always keep an eye on some of the Seamus Award
of course you do.
breeds. And this is a filly, a mare now, that I've sort of looked at it and thought, you've got that slow maturing look about you, but you've got something under the bonnet. So I find with these sort of horses, I'm not convinced the market finds it. Now, there's 2 parts to that. They'll find Rochelle Milnes, who's riding very well, who claims on the horse. They'll find John Hyam. He's had 4 runners in October, small stable, 2 winners and a placing from his 4. He's going very well. They'll find that. They'll find Murray Bridge. It's a track it won at its last prep. So it's a big, long straight. They'll find that it's got a peak performance there. But I don't think they'll find the intricacies around this horse, the way it gallops, the way it looks, how it's learning, how new it was last prep. I think that's the edge, which is good because there's something in it for us, but it also makes it trickier to decide what the price is going to do. So I've got this horse marked a fair bit short. It's currently up. If you shop well, this horse is $5.50. I'd say it's about $5 at PointsBet at the moment. I've got it marked just under $4, but I'm not sure if the market will find it because I'm looking at slightly different things than what they are. But I think this is a perfect race for it. I thought it's good. First up run last time out at 12.50. Watch the replay if you've got time. It was unlucky. It was building. Would it have won? I'm not sure, but it would have gone very close. I think Parks to Murray Bridge 1400 is a really big plus. So I'm very keen on it each way. As I said, you can get that $5 pretty comfortably. I think it's a good bet. Dolcemente in race 3. And the other one is in race number 9, Maricourt, another each way bet. It's good odds, about sort of $7, $58 around the traps. I've got a marked slight favourite in front of Thirsty Guest. Got a couple of the other ones a bit longer. This horse comes out of the Ballack Cup. Now, the form out of the Ballack Cup for the on-paces has been only fair. Dubai Poet we see, which is, I think, current favourite in this race. It was on speed in the Ballack Cup, finished second. Air Assault led, failed its next start. Tipper, that I tipped last week, it regressed off its rating in the Ballack Cup. Maricourt was the run of the race clearly. Got back, gave them a big start, held up, savaged the line. I think it should be favourite in this race. I think Murray Bridge is the right track for it. I don't mind that it has 31 days off into this. When it last won, which was 2 runs back, it was off 28 days. So it's proven that Michael Hickmott knows what he has to do with those 4 to 5 week gaps with this horse to get it cherry ripe still. I think it's good odds. I think the home track suits it. Nunez, it's his first meeting back in South Australia. He rode this horse last time he was here, rode it very well. So Maricourt each way in race 9, Dolcemente each way in race 3. Hopefully we can continue the run.
All right, beautiful. So there's 2 from JJ at each way prices. And as we said, plus 41% from that SA set. That is just absolutely absurd. Let's get to my set and ran the numbers as well. So been kicking rocks the last 2 weeks, JJ. Have not been able to hit the scoreboard, but do the numbers overall, plus 24%. So it shouldn't be all doom and gloom, but I will say, if I don't hit the scoreboard here this week, you may not ever see me again. That's not just from a point of sitting here. It's actually being on planet Earth. So it's important. So we're having a crack and we're spreading it wide. Going to start in the first at Caulfield. Number 8, a horse called Sabin, who actually ran 4th in the Queensland Derby behind Warmonger on a really wet track. Then it came back first up off only about 3 months, and it was 1,400 metres and a little bit more than 1,400 metres at Flemington. It was only sort of a low day, but it was clearly, I thought, the win of the day by far. It was inside standard time, the best last 400 of the day, great through the line, now gets to 1,700 metres, which I think it'll really love. And I just love the fact that it's one of those 4-year-olds that we don't know where the ceiling is yet. And it's running against a few horses here that I think have found their mark. I don't know where the mark is for Sabin yet, so I want to be with that horse. I think it's going to be a fast run race. I know it's drawn 1, but I think that'll break it up for it, so it'll allow Luke Nolan to get some clear air. I want to be with Sabin in the first, marked it much shorter than what the current price is at PointsBet. Race 3, I'm playing 2 horses here. I know we're with a little deep last start and it just got beaten, but they went back to the inside. Not much Jamie could do. I just love the draw again. I think it settles in the first 4 or 5 here around the chute. Mark Zara in the saddle. Sets up really well for a little deep. And I'm also taking Avietris, which you know this horse really well as well, JJ. Tipped it here at Caulfield sort of its 2 starts ago. I just reckon the way that track was playing and they drew 1, they just had to ride it a little bit warm, Craig Williams. I don't know if that was ideal for it. Yes, it's drawn cute again here, but gate 4, I think they would have learnt their lesson. They went back to Adelaide, and I thought they were really good winning last start. I've got it rating really well. So I'm going to be with Avietris again. Race 6, it's the Herbert Power. You win and you get into the Caulfield Cup. And I'm not saying these 2 horses are going to be major players in the Caulfield Cup, but I'm going around the current form lines that we currently see for the naturalism. I thought it was no good. Bart Cummings, the race has gone no good. So I'm going left field, different form lines with Herman Hess, who comes out of like a Mornington race, which is rated really well. And Braden Starr just comes out of the Benalla Cup. But I think they're both dead set dry trackers, which they're going to get on Saturday. And they're double figures. I want to play with them against those other horses at the pointy end of the market who are coming out of, yes, theoretically better races, but the races have rated absolutely no good with me, so I want to be around them. Race 9, tipping a filly here in the sprint race against the older horses. It's only got 51 kilos, Bellatrix Star. I'm not saying the fillies are going super, but this horse is just continually progressing and lifting its rating every start. It's 1-2 on the bounce. Third up here, 51 kilos. Craig Williams in the saddle. Again, each way price around $8, $8.50. think it's a bet to nothing. I think she'll run really well for you. And in the last race, the Toorak Handicap, I'm taking the price another will around that $2.80, $2.90. I want to be with him. I think they'll lead. I think he's going to be mighty hard to beat third up. And I think he's going to be a very, very good horse in the future.
All right.
So that's my set. As I said, JJ, your set. Yes, mate.
I'm just writing these down. I'm just those 14. There's no others. I might need another.
You might need another pen. You might need another pen.
And I will say
spreading it wide.
And I will say Aviatress was good last start. I think it's in good form. And Sabin, a 4-year-old by Seamus Award. It came over during our carnival. Ran well. Didn't have any rhythm the way I think Will Price rode it that day. It was a bit wide. No rhythm with the way it was sort of ran in transit. I think it's a nice horse. So hopefully you're right. I might have something on it on the back of hearing you liking it.
Yeah, I think just, again, I've had a bit of a crack here in terms of a lot of selections instead of being maybe the 2 or 3, because I just love this setup for Saturday. As long as we don't irrigate too much at Caulfield, it is the straightest track I think they race, and I think they run true to form. So that's why I'm playing Caulfield heavily on Saturday. That's our sets. Snap or don't snap, JJ, so where we predict whether these prices are going to firm in and you should be snapping and taking the price, or don't snapping, wait till the death and you're going to get a better price. Again, last week, knocked it out of the park. I think we only missed 1, maybe 2, so we're going 50 from 59. Again, we should be proud of that. I'll kick us off because I've got a few early doors. Sabin is a snap for me, so it's around that 330, 340, I think, at PointsBet. I've marked it sort of around $293. I think there'll be a snap on Sabin. I think they'll go with the newly minted 4-year-old in a race like this. Nails Murphy in the same race, going really well. I just think it's found its mark now. It's around that $5. I think if you like Nails Murphy, it'll be in front of a horse like Sabin. It'll be on speed, so it's going to give you a run for your money. I think you're going to be able to get better than $5, so I wouldn't be snapping the price on Nails Murphy. Grinzinger Bell in race 4, around $4.80. I've just got this as a really flat open market, around $6, $6.50 the field. So again, she'll put herself on speed, drawn wide. She might get to the front, but again, I think if you like her, you should be able to get better than the $4.80. And Jimmy's the Stars, the really interesting one here in race 5, Caulfield. Been really well back. They put up sort of $2.40, $2.50. Already been into $2.15. I think he's the clear top pick. So I've marked him clear favourite in this race. And this is sort of the point of this whole segment is I think he's the most winnable horse in this race by far. But I just can't get him as short as $2.15. And I think at some point in betting on Saturday, you're going to get better than the $2.15. I don't think you need to get any friends or pat dogs early before they went to school at that $2.15 right now. I'd just be holding off on that horse. So there's the 4 for me. 1 snap, 3 don't snaps. You got 2 for me.
Yeah,
what are they?
I'm not going to pat the dog before school or anything. Whatever the hell you are talking about. Anyway, I've got 2 don't snaps. Smoke and mirrors.
Mate, it's when Santa's little helper goes to school, mate.
Travis Clegg, I hope he's watching this. Anyway, the 2 don't snaps I've got. And I'll tell you what, last week I savaged a horse. You remember that, Bristler, didn't I? Wasn't I just savage on him?
Yes.
And what happened? Unplaced, completely cast the horse. And it brings me to the next point. When you're doing the form, if you're not a computer, you're not crunching heaps of algorithms, you're doing the form with data backing up your eye and your opinion, your intuition, if you like, which is the way probably you do it and I do it. I think if you're looking at a horse and you think this horse is gone, I know the market's going to find it, it's got a great SP profile, it's 360. If you think it's finished for the prep or it doesn't want to do it anymore in terms of its career, do not be afraid to market 20 to 1 if it's $4.
Yep.
If you've got a valid reason, you're actively, not something I may have missed that I don't know the horse that well. If you really know the horse and you really think it's cast, you need to mark it as such and be betting around it. And if you're wrong once every 3 or 4, don't worry about it. If you're right 3 or 4 out of 5, then you're going all right. So that's the first little point I'll say. There's a horse that this ties into. It's not just the ramblings of a madman. Race 5 at Murray Bridge on Saturday. It's a really weak race. We see Blue Stratum for the McAvoys come across. Now, love a good look at this horse's replays. It's sort of closing splits. It does anything but savage the line. They put blinkers on it. They go to, it's a short trip, obviously, in the sprint trip on Saturday, but it doesn't savage the line. It doesn't run a closing sectional. They put blinkers on it and it carries 61.5. And although they come back in trip at Murray Bridge, it's a very long straight. I would say the 1100 at a track like Caulfield with a shorter straight is far easier than the Murray Bridge 1000, if you like, which is 100 metres shorter. You think the on-pacers might hold on, but it's a 550 metre straight. It's a lot harder. The length of the straight can outweigh the total distance of the race, in my opinion, in terms of horses up on speed that might be stopping late. So Blue Australian, I reckon it's about 380 at the moment, 370. It's been really well backed. I am potting it. The market might not agree, but I'm going to take a set against it. And then race number 9, Dubai Poet. It's about 550. It comes out of that Balaclava Cup. I mentioned it. The on-paces out of that race have only been fair, I thought, their next start. They've nearly all regressed. I think it's a very different track that it will find on Saturday. And at the current quote of 550 for Dubai Poet, not for me.
All right, very good. So there's 6 snaps, 1 snap and 5 don't snap. So as we say, hopefully we can get those price points right for you, so more cash in your pocket, punters. Pin the tail time, JJ. You get one back on me with Via Sistina last week. You did really well. So she ends up SPing $4.20. I went with $5.50. You nailed $4.60. So you win the can for this week. It goes back to 7.5. This week we're going to look at
anyone's game.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point, but 2 seems a long way away, especially. And this is really interesting. This is very interesting because we're doing another will, and we'll go through the prices now. Actually, we'll give the prices and then we'll talk a little bit further about why it's so interesting. So I've ended up settling on $2.75 for another will, and obviously it's in my set as well. So I'm keen to back him. You've landed with the price of
$2.80, and now. Contrary to what you think, I didn't know that you were $2.75, but I'm bloody happy that I'm sitting just above you. It's pretty simple. If it starts, shorter than that, you get it.
Correct.
Longer, I get it. But, it's an interesting race. Let's talk a bit about it. You can go first.
Well, I think the key factor here for me is the 275's there, and I think it deserves to be that kind of price. He's got a great SP profile, blah blah blah, and he's a horse on the up. And it's the right race for him. But this is the really interesting thing with this day and with this horse in particular, and I sort of mentioned it when we were talking about the Group 1 set, is that this is race 10. Now, we've both worked in shops, and you've got, before this horse, you've got 2 shorties, Broadsiding and Mr. Brightside. Now, if both of those 2 horses were to lob, there is no doubt the bigger shops are going to say, we need to do some work on this horse, another will. And I've got no doubt they'll be knocking it off at the exchange or somewhere else to get this price in. Now, they may even do that on Friday afternoon because they'll try and see ahead of the game of what is possible they're going to be holding for multis. Because a lot of punters out there will probably say, hey, let's have Broadsiding, let's take Mr. Brightside, let's get a little bit more value, let's throw in another will in the last race. How cool will that be? We get a 3-leg multi up. No doubt that will happen for punters, and no doubt the corps will be looking at that. And that's not probably factored anything to do. I just was thinking about that out loud previously this morning. I think that's going to impact another will's price heavily, that if Broadsiding and Mr. Brightside win, I cannot see this horse starting any bigger than $2.70. And I think you would agree with me on that front, unless the inside is absolutely cactus, which again is another variable that you have to take into account. But barring that, track is fair. Those 2 horses win, they're going to grind this horse into the ground.
They definitely will, and I'm not sure if anyone's done it. There should be a Mr. Broadsiding double, shouldn't there? Little feature double there, Mr. Broadsiding. Yeah. Thank me later, points bet.
Very good.
When they both win. I think you're right, though. I think there's the aspect of there's a lot of multis riding into it. There's also the aspect that the sweet spot for turnover when you're laying a favourite in the last race, if it's evens, not too many people back it as far as multis are alive, but there's not a lot of people trying to get out by backing it. It's sort of $2.80, $3. There's a lot. You get an additionally big hold. So I agree with you. We know that the exchange largely directs the market, but there is still a relationship between the two where if the bookies are keeping it short, the exchange will only go out so far. So I think that could certainly be in play. As I said, nothing between your price and my price. Hopefully it just trickles my way.
Yep, absolutely. So I need 275 or less. Anything bigger than 275, and JJ will get the chocolates and bring it back to a 1-point game. That's Pin the Tail this week. Another will. All right, plays of the day, JJ. I'll kick us off because I'm in the first at Caulfield, so hopefully we can kick off the punters on a good note. It is Sabin, as I mentioned, second up here, coming off a really good first up run, gets to 1,700 metres. Yes, gate one, you could say, oh, is that a slight concern? But I think this is going to be run at a really genuine tempo. Field will actually string out. Luke Nolan will be able to get some space, and I think it'll be too good from 4-year-old on the up. I want to be with Sabin in the first at Caulfield. And you've got yours in Murray Bridge, early doors too a little bit.
Yeah, race number 3, Dolcemente is the horse. It's an up-and-coming horse. I think the long straight at Murray Bridge is going to suit it. The extra trip will suit it. Thought it was very good first up on the Parks at 12.50. I think it's great each way odds. It's a horse, I think, with some upside. Dolcemente each way in race number 3.
Beautiful. That's the plays of the day for this week, Caulfield and Murray Bridge. Okay, JJ, so we ran the Stupid as a Fox segment here, but Stupid as a Fox because I think this is going to be a very clever play for punters out there this week. Now, in our Fox Factors this week, we spoke about quaddies, and we were speaking about, well, sometimes you've got to take the risk with reward, and this week's quaddie at Caulfield is a little bit skinny, to be honest. You've got broadsiding in it and Mr. Brightside in it. So for punters who are playing a pure quaddie, I don't know if there's enough reward for the risk you're going to have to take there unless you take one of them on. But what I can identify for the punters out there is an hourly quaddie that PointsBet have on their own. And to be honest, I'm not a massive person that pushes products, but this one is an absolute belter in that at the hour on Saturday, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you actually take a quaddie and it's just of those, what time sphere of 45 to 50 minutes. So we've set up one for this week. So it's Rosehill Race 2, Caulfield Race 3, Murray Bridge Race 3, got you involved, and then back to Rosehill Race 3. And within that time span of around 45 minutes to an hour, there you've got your quaddie. And you can play as a normal quaddie would. I think you take the SP that PointsBet ended up spitting out. I'll also say last week they kicked this. Well, I think they've had this product for a couple of weeks. Last week, one paid 162,000. One of the quaddies, an hourly quaddie. So I think it was Lady Shenandoah, I think won in Sydney. Uncle Bryn then won at 80s, I think, at Flemington. Then I think Airman won at about 80s in Sydney. And then finished with Just Fine, I think won at about $25, $26 at Flemington as well. So 162K for the punter that nailed that for an hourly quaddie. So this week, graphics behind me, I've played Rosehill. I've played this one because I think this is the most one with a bit of value. Playing into those highways or midways at Rosehill, good luck. I think it's about $8 to field. If we can jag the winner there, I've gone numbers 9, 10, 14, 17, 20 there. Then we go to Caulfield Race 3. I've got 4, 6, 13, 14. The graphic will be behind me so you'll be able to see it, punters. Murray Bridge, you're only taking 2. Those two are...
This will be the value leg, 2 of them. Dolcemente, my play of the day, which is horse 9, and also horse 7, Flambard, that I think can run a big race.
Okay, so 7 and 9 are the 2 there for Murray Bridge. And then Rosehill Race 3, we're finishing with numbers 3 and 6. But what I will say is that's the hourly quaddie, I think, for 1 p.m. on Saturday this week. It'll be all throughout. Get to the app because it is an absolute belter of a product, especially in the fact that people say, well, I want to take a quaddie. Well, the quaddie's going to probably be no actual value for you, especially at Caulfield. But get to the hourly quaddie at PointsBet and you'll have some fun. JJ, we're done. That was fun. I'll see you Saturday at the track.
Going to be there Saturday, big day, Group 1 racing. Looking forward to it. If you're there and you see us, don't say hello.
Perfect. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching, punters. Please like and subscribe.
Imagine what you could be buying instead.
For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.